Hey everybody, today is the 29th of November still, the apocalypse hasn't happened, and coffeebrandcoffee.com is still open, and you can get yourself 5% off by using the code hammertime. And every time you drink a cup of coffee, you'll think of me. Maybe. Yeah, you'll think of me. So today's article is from The Guardian, and it was printed or posted today at 6 a.m. Eastern Time by this guy, Andrew Lawrence, who is not afraid to use every single woke clue word he can find. Because you got the diversity and equality in business here. You got sustainable business there. Down here at the bottom. That's not the bottom. We've got, where is it? Diversity and inclusion. Inequalities. Stuff is racist. You know, typical leftist flair. So, the BuyBlack movement had a moment in 2020. Was that all it was? Before I go any further, give this video a like, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so that when the zombie apocalypse does occur, you can tune in and I will tell you all about it. Be sure to comment below if I mispronounce something or make a mistake. Representation in retail business. Sorry. See, there we go. All right, off. Great start. Great start. Representation in retail became an urgent concern, but 2 years later, black businesses still face many of the same challenges. Supporting black creators has consumed Aurora James for her entire working life. When you're looking for racism everywhere, you will see racism everywhere. The Toronto-born fashion designer started her sustainable line, Brother Vellies, in 2013 as a means to employ artisans from Africa and preserve traditional shoemaking techniques. Founded with a mere $3,500, her company grew into a high-fashion favorite with fans in Beyoncé, Meghan Markle, and Serena Williams. But that was never the point. Selling shoes to celebrities was never the point. The mission of representation hit closer to home in summer of 2020 when a wave of unrest swept the U.S. and masses took to the streets to protest the killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, any other black people that existed that were shot or other criminals during that time. Yeah, there was usually a march for them too. Banks, media, conglomerates, and big box retailers scrambled to signal their support, but James still believed they could all do more because what they did was offer thoughts, prayers, and little black squares, and now we've switched to the Ukraine flag. So she took to Instagram and challenged retailers to make a commitment to devote 15% of their spending to black-owned businesses. After all, black people represent 15% of the American population, and we need to represent 15% of your shelf space, she explained on social media. Does that mean that they can steal 50% of the... Nope, not going... With that, the 15% pledge was born. Sephora, Macy's, and Bloomingdale's were the first juggernauts to come on board. With 29 retailers across 3 countries currently participating, the pledge claims to have directed more than $10 billion into 625 businesses that are at least 51% black-owned. That is a lot of bread. The organization started to advise small black-owned companies on business development as a means to circumvent the structural racism that necessitated groups like the 15% pledge in the first place. There's only structural racism. We understand the history and the infrastructure and how black people have been historically and then intentionally excluded from building wealth, says LaToya Williams-Belfort, executive director of the nonprofit. What we need from corporations is for them to reverse that. According to research from the consulting firm McKinsey, about 15% of... Wait a minute. Wait. Well, why is this lowercase? They're trying to be subtle? You thought I wouldn't see that? I catch all the errors. According to research from the consulting firm McKinsey, about 15% of white Americans hold some form of business equity, compared with only 5% of black Americans. See what they did there? The pledge has set a goal for retailers to pour $1.4 trillion into black-owned businesses while upping their overall representation in the U.S. marketplace to 14.6% by 2030. Closing the wealth gap redounds to everyone's benefit since an equitable economy is a healthy one, see? Equity, diversity, inclusion... But the journey is far from over. Williams-Belfort reckons that most pledge takers are currently indexing at about 3% representation on the shelves and commends them for starting the process. After all, fixing a broken system doesn't happen overnight. Sephora says it reached its 15% in the hair care category, while Nordstrom touts the 145 black and Latin-owned They don't even like that term. Latin people don't like that term because they realize that there is a masculine and feminine versions of words, Latino, Latina. Nordstrom touts the 145 brands whose products it now features on its website. Lackadaisical consumer attitudes haven't exactly helped influence retailers to sprint to the finish line. The urgency to #BuyBlack reached fever pitch during the early days of the lockdown, but once that fervor cooled, so did the spending spree. It's enough to frustrate Christian Edwards, a small business owner and BuyBlack activist, since before the pandemic. The Washington, D.C.-based public health professor launched BLK plus GRN, or online marketplace for black-made natural body and beauty products, in 2017. D.C. is an expensive place to live, let me tell you. As attention focused around the BuyBlack movement, and the pledge in particular, my sales went through the roof for a couple months. The numbers at our business are now back to where they started. We created a moment in history, but not a movement, Edwards said. Black businesses have what it takes to land customers and keep them. On average, black-owned businesses have a higher Yelp rating of 4.34 versus the average rating across all businesses of 3.64, says Tara Lewis, Vice President of Community Expansion and Trends at Yelp, another company that has taken the 15% pledge. Since Yelp doesn't sell products per se, the company has come up with its own version of the pledge and has made a concerted effort to de-promote white businesses or Mexican businesses and promote black businesses in its listings and support them at company events by discriminating against everybody else. We're just going to single you out. Hey, what's that thing we're not supposed to judge people by? Skin color? Do you realize what this article is? And this discrepancy in ratings existed before 2020, she says. It shows that black businesses that are on Yelp are engaging, providing great service. But good quality only gets you so far. When it comes to making the jump from retail to wholesale, from mom and pop to mass market, black businesses, and this shouldn't even be capitalized mid-sentence like they did all over the place. Shouldn't those be lowercase too? Or is this a subtle psycho warfare where we're trying to stay on subject? Black businesses face especially high hurdles. According to recent data from the U.S. Federal Reserve, black entrepreneurs are twice as likely to be turned down for loans for their record label. Their chances of getting approved for credit cards were likewise dismal. A 2020 government study of the Paycheck Protection Program noted the structural inequalities built into the administration of the program, the application process, and the fee structure. It bears noting that no banks or venture capital firms have gone woke and agreed to the 15% pledge. Yet. Which means that many black-owned startups have yet to receive the infusion of investment that it takes to grow from a startup to a brand primed to blow up. According to a McKinsey report, only 4% of black-owned startups remain in operation after 3.5 years. Again, record labels. I need a credit card so I can start my record label. I need a loan so I can start my credit card label. Or it might even be the same visit, and the bank is like, no, man, son, you have no talent. You are not getting this loan. It kind of has to go on two ends, says Jessica Ramirez, a senior retail research analyst at Jane Halley & Associate who follows retail trends for Wall Street. You have to be a retailer that will open the doors for these brands, and then as a brand, you have to have funding in order to create a bigger brand. So the more we can give an opportunity to the diversity in funding, we'll have more growth with products that we can put on our shelves. So are you telling us that they are not reinvesting in their company to further their marketing themselves or pushing themselves to grow? We need retailers to carry our stuff. In the days of online selling and people selling this 15% crap on Instagram, you got retailers to pick that up, but you couldn't sell your products on Instagram? In many ways, the challenges black businesses face are more or less the same as they were in 2020. But maybe the end goal isn't as static as a percentage point. Calling attention to the injustices that blight the American economy has had an unignorable impact. I remember when Jake from State Farm was a white guy. Corporate retailers feel more responsible for their diversity and inclusion practices. See? Why aren't those capitalized? On their shelves and organizational charts, and black businesses no longer bury race in their sales pitch. You'd be surprised at the number of brands started by black women who were once scared to show their faces on their websites, says Edwards. They worried it would pull down their sales if someone saw them, and now they brag about it. Uncle Ben's Rice. Aunt Jemima. That's all I got. I don't think I'm going to read any more Andrew Lawrence stories. They suck. All right, that's it. I'm done.